solemnly swear affirm to tell the whole truth and nothing but the truth the best of your knowledge?
Before I start the question with Ms. Green, just as a housekeeping matter, I want to make sure that exhibits 14 through 17 have been admitted.
Any objection at all?
No, sir. Ma'am, could you please state your name for the record?
Barbara Green.
Okay. Ma'am, what do you do for a living?
I'm the president of Franciscan Healthcare in Munster.
Okay. And your professional career, could you start with after your graduation from either college or advanced professional school? Tell us what you've done.
I started I got a bachelor's in accounting and went to work for Hertz Rent-A-Car as an internal auditor, then Coopers & Lybrand, a public accounting firm in Chicago, then to St. Margaret's Hospital as a controller for the hospital, and moved through my career, went into the vice president of business development for St. Margaret's, and then chief operating officer for St. Margaret's, and then finally now where I am.
Okay, and what is it you do now exactly?
I run a hospital in Munster for the Franciscan Alliance.
Was the hospital originally known as Ileana Hospital or some function of Ileana?
Yes.
Okay. And ultimately, Franciscan Alliance purchased that hospital, is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. And now it is called Franciscan Hospital Munster?
Franciscan Healthcare in Munster.
Okay. Through your time at Franciscan Alliance, or working in one capacity or another at Franciscan Alliance, have you been involved in more than one asset purchase?
Yes.
What was the most recent asset purchase prior to the purchase of the assets of medical specialists?
Franciscan Hammond Clinic.
And was the number of physicians at the Hammond Clinic comparable to the number of physicians at medical specialists in PC?
Yes.
The size of that transaction was smaller, however, is that a correct statement?
The value was smaller.
Okay. Were you involved, or would you consider yourself to be a key negotiator during a medical specialist transaction?
Yeah, I would negotiate, but I would have to get authorization through our corporate office, our assistant CEO.
And who is your system CEO?
Kevin Leahy.
Okay. Would you also communicate with Mr. Diamond about the transaction?
Yes.
What's Mr. Diamond's position?
He is the regional CEO for Northern Indiana.
Okay. Did you also, for completing the due diligence necessary to purchase the assets of medical specialists, part of a team of people conducting the due diligence?
Yes.
Okay. Approximately how many people were on that team?
I don't know, 12 to 15.
Ma'am, can you tell me about how many physicians there were employed by medical specialists in PC at the time you began negotiating the transaction?
Somewhere between 55 and 60.
Okay. And at some point in time, did Franciscan Alliance place a value on the practice that was contingent on the number of doctors who would consent to the assignment of their contracts?
We actually placed a value on the practice. It was contingent on us closing that a specific number of doctors signed.
Okay. How many doctors was that?
48.
Okay. And what was the price that was paid to medical specialists and the other various selling entities in total?
It was somewhere around 21.5 million.
Okay. Were there any doctors who did not consent to their assignments that could have derailed that transaction? Or was the number 48 exactly what it took?
48 is what it took.
Any doctor stand out in your mind as being a substantial disappointment that she did not sign over for a contract with Franciscan?
We discussed the fact that Karen Jordan didn't.
Karen Jordan is a very high-grossing physician.
Dermatologist, yes.
As to the doctors who did not consent to the assignment of their contracts, how was it agreed in the asset purchase agreement that those positions would be handled?
There's a paragraph in the asset purchase agreement that addresses non-consenting providers, and it spelled out that we knew that those providers would be committed till the end of June 2013, that Franciscan medical specialists would bill for their services going forward, and there would be a reconciliation in terms of any costs associated with that.
So for a time from, and let me just to clarify this with you, is it your understanding that the agreement became effective about as of October 1st, 2012?
Yes.
That's the asset purchase agreement?
Yes, it did.
Okay. And from the time of October 1st, roughly 2012, through December of 2012, was Franciscan Alliance billing and collecting for those services?
We were billing and collecting for those services, but our attorneys contacted us sometime in December and said we really needed to discontinue doing that. It was felt that we were violating some other regulations, federal regulations.
So in other words, you were in the act of billing and collecting for physicians that were not specifically employed by Franciscan Alliance. There might be discrepancies in those billings.
Correct.
And was it also part and parcel to that agreement that, as to the non-consenting physicians, that medical specialists would be compensated the funds necessary to pay those physicians out of the monies that were billed and collected?
That is correct.
So at that point in time, from October through December, of 2012, Franciscan Alliance would have made a profit, per se, on those physicians who did not commit to send their contracts to Franciscan Alliance because it was only paying medical specialists what it needed to pay the doctors.
Not really. The way that this works is when you acquire a new practice like that, you have to re-credential all the providers with all of the payer plans and the federal government, and that takes a long time. So we probably didn't start getting cash collections until January for their services. And because it was inappropriate for us to bill for them, we lost some of that income.
Medical specialists paid you a 4% collection fee.
For anything we collected.
And ma'am, did that occur as to all four of the plaintiffs in this case?
Yes.
Are you familiar with what has been referred to in this proceeding as the May 22nd agreement?
Yes. God bless you.
Ma'am, the agreement that was entered into, at least it is dated May 22nd, between Franciscan Alliance and Medical Specialists, Inc., PC, specifically references this lawsuit, does it not?
Yes.
Was it one of the purposes of entering into the agreement to obtain for Franciscan the benefit of those doctors' services, even though they did not consent, by defeating this lawsuit?
There were many reasons. That was one of them.
Part and parcel to most, or at least I'll just ask you as to the asset purchases that you've been involved in. The entity from which you, Franciscan, are purchasing the assets, are they typically bound by a restrictive covenant or a non-compete within a certain geographic area?
Yes.
Okay. And was that the case in this instance?
That is the case.
And was that were the parameters of that, as you understand it, to be a 25-mile radius from 761 45th Street in Munster for a period of 5 years?
That is my understanding.
And did Dr. Alexander Stummer, to your knowledge, have the same type of non-compete language as to him as an individual?
He did.
Okay. Was Dr. Stummer offered an employment contract as part and parcel of the asset purchase agreement with Franciscan Medical Specialists?
He was offered employment contract with Franciscan Alliance.
Okay, I'm sorry, with Franciscan Alliance. And is he employed by Franciscan Alliance, or is he employed by Franciscan Medical Specialists?
A portion, the majority of his time is spent with Franciscan Alliance, working on various initiatives. In his job description, there is a component of his clinical work that is with Franciscan Medical Specialists.
Is what is Dr. Stummer's official title with Franciscan Alliance, if you know?
He has multiple titles. He's the president of Franciscan Medical Specialists. He is the senior vice president for strategic planning for the Northern Indiana region. He's the medical director of our ACO.
And as part and parcel of Dr. Stummer's duties with or for Franciscan Alliance, among those, is he a recruiter?
He is a recruiter.
Okay. Is it your opinion or the opinion of the Franciscan Alliance organization that Dr. Stummer has some expertise or a knack for recruiting?
Yes. We specifically have asked Dr. Stummer to recruit exclusively for us for specialists in the Northern Indiana region.
And you're aware, as you sit here today, that Dr. Stummer is also recruiting positions for medical specialists in PC?
Yes.
So what is the reason in your mind that Dr. Stummer is not simply recruiting those positions to work directly for Franciscan Medical Specialists or Franciscan Alliance?
Well, the reason in my mind is that we underestimated the reaction of our competing health facilities in Lake, bordering the 4 counties. When Methodist Hospital terminated Dr. Weaver's contract, and also when there was a couple of leases with Community Health System that were threatened, we took a look at whether or not we shouldn't leave some of the contracts that we initially intended to move with Franciscan Medical Specialists, that maybe we should leave well enough alone and keep those contracts in medical specialists. So as long as those services are being provided, we're going to have to recruit to cover those services that we are contracted.
In other words, I've been saying doctor so long I forgot. In other words, Ms. Green, would you say that some of the contracts had to stay in the name of medical specialists because some of the competing organizations didn't want to enter into contracts with Franciscan?
That's correct.
Okay. And some of those are medical directorships?
Yes.
Okay. Are medical directorships administrative positions or are they clinical positions?
Administrative, most of the time.
You stated previously, just recently, that Methodist Hospitals terminated Dr. Weaver. Is that correct?
Her medical director contract.
Okay. So a medical director contract that was in favor of, was it medical specialists or Franciscan Alliance? Who was
Medical
that?
specialists.
Okay. Do you know why Methodist Hospitals terminated that contract?
I really don't know why.
And in your functions, in your function with Franciscan Alliance, are you primarily the head or the person who is foremost in control of the Munster hospital?
Yes.
Okay. Is that hospital in the midst of doing an expansion?
It is planning an expansion.
Okay. Tell me about the expansion. How many beds are you adding?
That changes from day to day, but at the most, we're going to add 24 beds.
Okay. Are you contemplating also erecting a private physician's office?
We are. We presently have a medical office that is attached to our building, and we need to use that space for other services. And so we will not be building it, but there will be a developer that is building a new medical office building on Calumet Avenue in Superior.
And you're going to occupy it and pay rent for it?
We are not. The physicians who presently lease space from us in our building will be, we hope.
Okay. Are you adding a helicopter pad?
We are.
Are you adding a full-service emergency room that is not there today?
Yes.
Who will be, if you know, your primary competitor in the market for medical services there in Munster?
Community hospital.
Is it in the best interest of the hospital that you now operate to be on your best footing to compete with community hospital?
Yes.
And part and parcel to that would be to keep the 4 plaintiffs here from practicing in this area.
That would be part of it.
Were you aware at the time of the asset purchase agreement that if one of the physicians employed with medical specialist Inc. PC did not consent to an assignment of his contract, that Franciscan would have no ability to enforce the restrictive covenants against that doctor?
Yes, we were aware.
Ms. Green, was Franciscan able to obtain the consent of either Community Hospital Munster Medical Research Foundation, St. Catherine Hospital, or St. Mary's Hospital for medical directorships?
We did not attempt to.
Were those medical directorship agreements assets that Franciscan had intended to purchase?
We did intend to purchase, as the asset purchase agreement reflects, but due to some of the repercussions we began to see in the marketplace, we changed that approach.
That's all. Thank you.
Cross-examination.
And that change in approach was that those contracts were not assumed by Franciscan Alliance. Is that correct?
That is correct.
And as a result, they remained with medical specialists. Is that correct?
Yes.
And they remained with medical specialists to be serviced by non-FA employed physicians at the time the services are rendered. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Now, there was an employee lease agreement that was marked, identified, and admitted into evidence in this case. You remember hearing about that while you were sitting in the back of the courtroom.
Yes.
Are the, at the outset, were the FCCI employees leased to the Franciscan Alliance?
Yes.
Are they still leased to the Franciscan Alliance?
They are still leased to us.
Don't go out there.
Hey, they're screaming.
Is it guilty or not guilty? One or the other. Yeah.
Let's see if they need it.
Lock that door.
Lock that door. Wow.
Get some security. Did you?
That's what a lawyer and a doctor look like trying to lock a door.
I thought I would. Well, I haven't gone on out to the hall to see the parade. What happened after January of 2013 with regard to the procedure for the billings for these 4 physicians?
The 4 physicians' billings all went through medical specialists.
Thank you, that's all.
Do you redirect?
Just 1 second, Your Honor. Ms. Green, does Franciscan get money from the medical director agreements that are with various entities at Community Hospital?
I believe a portion of those medical director agreements do come back to Franciscan, but we are working on a reconciliation of all the cross costs between the 2 entities right now.
So Community Hospital will pay money to medical specialists that comes to Franciscan, and some of it will stay with Franciscan.
Yeah, a portion of it goes to the physicians as part of their employment contracts.
But does some of it stay with Franciscan?
Yes.
Okay, that's all.
And when you say the 2 entities, are the 2 entities medical specialists and Franciscan Alliance?
Yes.
Thank you.
That's all, Your Honor.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Your Honor, subject to the earlier agreement that additional materials will be submitted Monday, we would not offer any more evidence at this time.
Okay.
As I understand, it's going to be additional designation
Of depositions.
of depositions
Correct.
with our opportunity to make counter depositions, and then the record will be closed.
With respect to the depositions, there are some exhibits. They lay the foundation for the employment agreements of Drs. Smith, Stokar, Dumont. We haven't introduced those, but we would like to submit those along with the, the foundation.
Are they part of the deposition? They are.
Yeah.
Okay.
Would Your Honor entertain, I understand it's late in the day, but would Your Honor care to entertain the closing arguments by either side, or there may be a suggestion that I could make? If we could set aside a bit of time that when we submit our findings and conclusions, we'd be permitted to make a closing argument, maybe 30 minutes aside or something like that.
You want to do that?
I think that's sensible. When would you like to have findings?
Let me see what I have next week.
Are of law available, made available to you, Your Honor?
We have it next week.
That's some restrictions on the house.
Yeah. Probate.
It's
Probate.
Come on.
That's the first time I've heard that.
The Hatfields and the McCoys.
Week after Tuesday, right? Tuesday.
Well, we're gonna, if soon we do it at the same time we submit our findings, is that enough time? Presumably.
Oh, you want to do it after you submit your findings?
I would think at the same day or the same time, we could submit the findings, do the arguments, and then submit the findings to the court.
Okay. How much time do you need to submit your findings?
Well, you're in trial next week. But you're not? Oh, good for you.
All right.
Probably Friday next week.
Okay.
Friday the 13th in the afternoon.
That sounds like that.
Let me call the office right now.
You said it.
That's available.
Is Monday the 16th a possibility?
I know that that is impossible for me, as I have multiple depositions in a case in which you are.
Me too.
Yeah, I was going to say, aren't we all almost up?
Yes.
Wednesday the 18th?
Again, I'm in California.
Well, I'll be in, we have our conference, but you just manage
Just
it.
get back here on the telephone for me. Hear my challenges? All right, can we appear here on the afternoon of Friday the 13th? All right, and that's the last time I have nothing for the rest of the month, correct? I have depositions virtually every day thereafter. Okay, because we have to complete the discovery and the truth development. Okay, Friday the 13th is available to me in the afternoon.
That's fine.
Okay, because you have 14 depositions scheduled.
Thank you.
1 o'clock? 1 o'clock, too?
1 o'clock. Fine.
All right.